Okay, I'm speaking for a second on mask space because I can't bother to find my mask, but this is the first Stranger Things video I'm making on the channel, and I just finished season 4, haven't watched season 5 yet, so if there are any lore inaccuracies, don't let me know until I make a post saying I've finished season 5. Okay, but anyways, I'm doing it. More D&D monsters were in Stranger Things. These will be spoken as though they are government files, just for a bit of pizzazz, you know? Right. Wahoo. There is a universe similar to our own, but trapped in a constant state of terror and agony. It has not been officially named, but in the area it was opened, Hawkins in Indiana, USA. Some children have referred to it as the Upside Down. The locals have referred to it as the Upside Down. So this is what we shall be referring to it as. The first creature I have to show you is something with blue tinted skin, a quadrupedal frame with four legs and 2 arms, along with 2 spiked tentacles on its back. This has also not been officially named, but a group of children in the area have called it the Displacer Beast, named after a creature from the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons that it shares some similarities with. Excuse me. Okay, sorry, I'm stumbling over my words just because of how terrifying this is for me. I know it's unprofessional, my apologies, but it is an apex predator of the dimension, stronger than even the species known informally as Demogorgons. It is blind, but it can sense vibrations using its tentacles, one of its few differences from its Dungeons and Dragons counterpart. Similar to it, however, it can displace light to make it appear further away than it is, or, depending on its intelligence, even invisible. One entered Hawkins some point in 1985, and it hunted hikers and campers through the forest for weeks. Eventually, the group from Hawkins, made up of Mike Wheeler, Dustin Henderson, Will Byers, Lucas Sinclair, Subject 11 from Hawkins Lab, Steve Harrington, Nancy Wheeler, and Jonathan Byers. There were a few others, but these are the main ones that were sent to deal with the threat. They tracked it through the forest. However, some were seriously injured. Eventually, 11 managed to seek it out using her powers and hold it using it, and causing it immense pain, removing all of its tricks since it was in too much pain to use them. This allowed the rest of the group to promptly kill it using their weapons. Similar to the Demogorgons, it was immune to gunfire, so they had to resort to using melee weapons and also fire. It was eventually killed, and one other did return to Hawkins a few years ago, but we found it before it could do any damage and promptly executed it. There is still much we don't know about these creatures. They are probably the most unknown on the list. We don't know how they survive within the Upside Down. All we know is that they are clearly still out there in some form, in some way or another. But anyways, that's the Displacer Beast. For this design, it's probably the worst one I did, I'll be honest. I mainly just took a Displacer Beast and made it look as if it was from the Upside Down. As for the lore, I don't know, I just threw that together last minute. The only one I've properly planned lore out for is going to be the last entry of the video. Well, maybe one more, but, you know. In case some of these monsters are a bit obscure, I wanted to do something unique, you know. Just wanted to let you know. Well, anyways. I forgot to mention in the thing, it uses its tentacles to feel the air but also grab prey. But just thought to let you know. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the Displacer Beast. I'll probably do some proper fan art of it later so that I can upload on the channel, right? So, on to the next entry. The next creature we know of was called the Shambling Mound. Again, informally by the same group, who often dealt with the creatures from the Upside Down. This creature was probably the easiest to kill out of all of the entries I have here at the time. That weren't already well known. But there are sentient vines in the Upside Down, for those who did not know, but I'm sure it's pretty common knowledge within our institution at this point. But a few of them found a way to merge together to create a more powerful threat. It was named the Shambling Mound after a creature in D&D created, made out of sentient plants, and I'll be honest, this is probably the most fitting name the group gave. But it camouflaged in Hawkins, pretending to be a dead tree. It then attacked and swallowed those who came near. It was eventually found by the Hawkins group. However, Subject 11 was unable to help this time, as she was dealing with some problems of her own. Mainly she was extremely drained during the time, but they still managed to kill it through fire. Fire is a common weakness of all creatures from the Upside Down. Like, most of the ones I have mentioned today are weak to fire. But after they lit it on fire, there has been no sighting of a Shambling Mound, at least in our dimension, since. However, there have been many sightings in the Upside Down, so it is safe to assume that one day they will return and try to bring ruin, but will likely be destroyed just as easily as they were before. So, that's the Shambling Mound. Probably the Displacer Beast was the worst design, but this is probably the least creative design. They get better. In my personal opinion, they get better from this point on. And I think I'm going to do my personal favourite next. But for the Shambling Mound, in case you're wondering what these weird sticky things are, that's just weird slime from the Upside Down in season 1. I really wish they kept that in for the rest of the show. It might have been in season 2, I don't remember fully. But I hope you like the design, and on to the next entry. Also, yeah, it is going to be my personal favourite. I'm sure that if you are lucky enough to have heard of the Upside Down, you have likely heard of the creatures commonly referred to as Demogorgons. They are the dominant species in the dimension and are the most common threat Hawkins faces. However, we have recently discovered almost a subspecies of them. Subspecies may not be the right term though, as they are more like a virus that infects them. We named it the Ettercap the group named it the Ettercap, again, after a creature from Dungeons & Dragons. It is fitting, however, as both are large spider-like creatures, and both are somewhat malevolent in nature, at least most of the time. Its life cycle is a bit different from that of a regular Demogorgon, so it starts with a regular Demogorgon Poliwag, but the Ettercap injects it with its venom, leading into the regular creature commonly referred to as the Frogogorgon. Stupid name, I am aware. We are working on a proper way to name these, but it's kind of difficult when they are not similar to any species we have ever discovered. But the Frogogorgon or whatever inflates and kind of bruises from the venom, turning it into an antecap. Again, it's an even stupider name. This name is decent, however, the Etaroach. It is the next stage in the life cycle, and it does skip a stage from the regular Demogorgon evolution, which is a smaller version of the young stage. It's not quite an adult. When it turns into an Etaroach, it's not quite an adult, but it is close to full maturity. They hunt in packs, like the penultimate stage to the evolution of Demogorgons, until eventually they evolve into Etacaps. This is when they gain their full capabilities. They build nests within the Upside Down, where they can replenish their venom using sacs left by dead Etacaps. Only one has ever been recorded to have entered Hawkins, where it started as an Etaroach, and they were lucky here since it was alone. But it hunted people inside of populated areas so that it couldn't be seen easily, causing widespread panic and quarantine throughout the town. Until it matured into the full-grown Etacap and was able to breach the quarantine. However, Subject 11 eventually found it and dealt with it in a similar way she did to the first Demogorgon to enter Hawkins, by using her powers to disintegrate it into dust left from the Mind Flayer, or the Shadow, as its proper name is, and banishing it to the Upside Down. So, this is probably my favourite design in the video, probably because it is mainly taken from a Stranger Things design, but I did this because I thought the Etacap looks cool, and it already looks a bit like a Demogorgon, so I was like, you know what, it's a Demogorgon now. I'm not bothered. But, the idea of it being more of a virus was just brought by me wanting to do something unique with the design. I mean, I could have designed a mid-stage between the Etaroach and the Antecap, but I designed this pretty late at night, so I wasn't thinking too well. But that's my personal favourite design on the video. Now on to the design that is inspired by concept art, which I also think is pretty cool. The Upside Down has claimed many victims since the Mother Gate was opened. However, some of those victims live on within it. These were named Blights after creatures once again featured in Dungeons and Dragons. I would wish, as I said before, I wish we had more creative names for these. However, we are still working on it. So, whenever someone dies in the Upside Down, they have a chance for the Shadow's particles to enter them, infecting them, and turning them into mindless husks that it controls. However, they do need some plating to protect themselves. One such version of plating is using vines from the Upside Down, which means they're probably the most controlled by its hive mind, but they are the weakest. The needle blight, which is covered in sharp needle-like plating, and the twig blight, which is mainly just used through the husk's flesh wrapping around tree branches to stick itself together. These never actually entered Hawkins, they just stayed in the Upside Down, since they were likely too scared to return. However, the vine blights and twig blights are easily destroyed by most melee weapons. However, needle blights can only be affected by fire due to their sharp plating. So, probably the most basic lore I've made, but this next one combines everything. Good design, good lore, good everything, and it's inspired, and it's probably the most famous monster in the video. Back to you, Dr. Franklin, I don't know. I appreciate it, Griffin, but the last creature is actually connected to the Shadow that I previously mentioned. at some point in 1985, well, more accurately in the summer, I don't know exactly when, but in the summer of 1985, tried to create a physical form using the bodies of rats and humans. It was eventually destroyed by the Hawkins group, however, it did have an original attempt to create this. This creature was named the Beholder by the group who often dealt with the beasts from the Upside Down. However, the creature was named the Beholder after a creature from D&D. I personally think that this is the most fitting choice of name for the creature. It was a group of flayed, as they were created before the main physical body, the Shadow, who merged but broke free from its control. It then saw itself as the first of a new supreme race to enslave Demogorgons who it still had some hive mind connection over. Eventually, it returned to Hawkins and tried to build a large enough body to kill the Shadow, absorb it, and rule the Upside Down. Eventually, it was ambushed by the Hawkins group, but it attacked Subject 11 while she was drained and began absorbing her. However, it had a Molotov thrown at it, burning it and forcing it to drop the girl. All of its flesh was burned off, leaving just a skull behind. This was referred to as the Death Tyrant after a variant of the Beholder from Dungeons & Dragons. Again, it is definitely a fitting name. But it escapes before building a lair beneath Hawkins and eventually finding a gate, which was pursued by the children into the Upside Down and rebuilt itself using its enslaved demo creatures and challenged the Mind Flayer, but it repossessed it. The Beholder pursued the Hawkins group until they got out and 11 closed the gate, slicing the Beholder in half and killing it. Those are all the files I have for today. I will collect more information and update these, as well as finding new creatures. This is Dr. Franklin, signing off. So the Beholder was actually the first creature I designed, but it's still my favourite. Look, he looks so friendly and approachable. I'm kidding, he definitely does not. But probably one of the most famous D&D monsters, the first creature I designed, and probably my favourite. Season 3 is actually my favourite season. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but still. So I thought I should honour it in some way. But that's all the designs I have for today. Let me arrange them down here. So comment which one was your favourite, which one's lore was your favourite, and if you want to see more of Dr. Franklin in the next video, let me know. Alright, so, see ya. Bye.